I saw myself projected into the future, or it felt like a world that somebody like me could live in.
You're listening to Books We've Loved from NPR.
The book show where we reread old favorites and tell you why they still matter today.
I'm Andrew Limbong.
I'm B.A. Parker.
This is a big one. This is a hefty. Listen, flipping through this right here.
Andrew,
Flipping
so much.
through this hefty boy.
It's so much, and it's our guest's fault. And I mean, I did it. 617 pages.
Is that not counting the appendices and all that?
Okay, so like almost 700 pages.
Yeah.
Who do we have with us that we can
thank for this? We have here Ramtin Arablouei from NPR's Throughline. Ramtin, what's up, man?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Thank you for this assignment. Thank you.
We're about to get through this heavy book.
The book we're reading today.
In many ways, it's heavy.
The book you brought us today is Frank Herbert's Dune. Woo!
Yes,
hooray,
all day.
Right.
I've been waiting decades for this.
This is your moment.
It's all gonna pour out here, okay? I've been waiting for years to talk about this book, which I would tell you that, and y'all might be completely disturbed by this, had a major part in building my worldview.
No, I believe
what?
it. I get it. Yeah.
How old did you?
I was 13.
Okay.
I was in middle school when I first read this. Reading came late for me. I struggled with it a little bit. I mean, partly it's because it was my second language. You know, I moved here. I just got out of being a toddler when I moved to the U.S., and so it was hard to learn English. And so I kind of was delayed a little bit in reading. But once I started reading, I really got into sci-fi books.
Yeah.
And I had a teacher who was like, hey, if you really want to get into some deep stuff, Dune. So I read it and I became obsessed. I read it like twice in a summer.
For listeners who haven't read it, I'm just going to run through. I read this quick synopsis. We've been doing these like quick summaries of the book. This is by far the longest synopsis. I'm going to try to get through it. Here's Dune summed up. It goes, so Paul Atreides is a 15-year-old boy next in line to lead the Atreides family, who they rule over their water planet Caladan, right? And Paul's dad, Leto, gets a call from the Emperor, says, guess what? You're now in charge of this desert planet called Arrakis. Arrakis kind of sucks there. It's dry and it's hot, but it is rich with this drug resource called spice. Turns out, you find out midway through the book, that the Emperor was working with the Harkonnen, who are rivals to the Atreides family. There's a big attack, and now Paul's dad is dead, and Paul and his mom Jessica are alone in the desert. There, Paul and Jessica intermingle with the Fremen, who are the indigenous people of Arrakis. And it turns out, it just so happens that Paul is this savior figure that they've been waiting for. Paul falls in love with a Fremen woman named Chani, and he eventually leads the Fremen to defeat the Harkonnen and then like overthrow the Emperor in a marriage in some sort of, I can't quite understand the deal that's made there, but Paul's at the top of the castle at the end. Is that a fair once over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Ramtin has a better understanding of what he's read it more than once. I read it once, and I thought Arrakis and Atreides were the same thing for the first 80 pages. So I was like, wait, did they name the planet after themselves? And I was like, nah, girl.
Just different stuff, yeah.
So I trust Ramtin.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the things I think that I loved about the book, but I think is a weak spot of it is it's like basically mostly context and world building.
Yeah.
It is building this world that is then expanded upon in the next 5 books that Herbert himself wrote.
Right.
But I think that part of it, for my mind at that time, I was super into this kind of context, world building. What does it say about our world? What does it say about geopolitics? I was in that place, and so it has that. But there's a ton of names and a ton of concepts, and things are returned to, and there isn't like narrative driving it the way that like a typical sci-fi novel would. So I can understand why you get those two mixed up.
But I'm thankful for the glossary in the back of the book as we move forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So Parker, like, since were you like a sci-fi kid growing up? Or were you reading sci-fi?
No, I was reading like Roald Dahl and like John Cheever's short stories.
Interesting.
So like, what was your impression of Dune? Like, did you know about it?
I knew it existed. I've seen the 2 movies, the
David
Timothy
Lynch?
Chalamet movies. I've never seen the David Lynch Dune.
Well, I'm just curious because when I was a teenager, I was big into sci-fi. I was reading like Ender's Game. I was reading like Philip K. Dick. I was reading, Ursula K. Le Guin. I remember I gave Dune a shot because I knew this was like a big book in the genre.
Yeah.
And I have this sense memory. I remember being in the back seat of the car we were driving to church, and I'm reading my copy from the library, and I get like 30 pages into it, and I'm like, nah, bro. I'm done. I'm out.
What made you want to be like, I'm out?
I just think I got confused. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who was who. And there was no, at the time, I just like couldn't grab onto anything driving me through like the rest of the book. And so I was wondering, like, maybe it is possible that you were just built different, right, as a kid. But like, do you remember as a kid being like, oh, I don't really know what the world of the emperor is and like his big corporation thing, but I'm very attracted to this one thing that is driving me through.
Yeah, that's why I read it twice, because I also obviously was like, what is going on at times? I didn't understand. I had to keep going back, which is obviously not what you want as a writer, I think, to have people doing that. But at the same time, for me, it was personal. What this book had for me that appealed to me personally is like one of the first books, sci-fi books that I read that projected the modern world into the future in the way that it did. Specifically for me, Islam was a big part of the book. I mean, very quickly into the first 100 pages, there's Arabic words coming up, Islamic concepts, and
they're like
I was
celebrating
Muslim.
Ramadan, right? They're going on Hajj.
Yes,
I was like, what's happening? Yeah.
For me, it was like, wow, I saw myself, and because you're a kid, you're a narcissist, you're really into yourself at that point. I saw myself projected into the future, or it felt like a world that somebody like me could live in.
That's so lovely. I feel so bad for growling and being so mad while reading this.
No, because that's legit too. Like I can hold both things, right? Like at the same time, I understand that the book's weakness is it's just not as narrative driven. Like what you're saying, totally makes sense. There isn't a thread that pulls you all the way through. It's not per se a classically well written book, but what it has is the level of detail and research that went into it. If world building and if sci-fi for you is a way to understand the world today, it has, in my opinion, a lot to offer there. Meaning the way it projects, economics, ecology, religion, gender dynamics, all of that into the future, I think is really prescient in a way that a lot of other sci-fi books aren't.
All right, I just want to take a quick break right here, and then we'll get into all of that.
This message comes from BetterHelp. As a dad, BetterHelp President Fernando Madera relates to needing flexibility when it comes to scheduling therapy.
I have kids under 18, so time is very limited. That's why at BetterHelp, our therapists try to have sessions sometimes at night, depending on the therapist, or during the weekend. So I think that's what we need to tell the parents. You're not alone. We can help you out.
If a flexible schedule would help you, visit BetterHelp.com/NPR for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
This message comes from Whole Foods Market. Make every holiday party shine with Whole Foods Market. Hosting, stock up on their Wallet Happy 365 brand with appetizers like walnut honey shrimp and breaded calamari. Plus, save now on crowd-pleasing bone-in spiral cut ham with no antibiotics ever. For dessert, check out limited-time treats like their holiday rum cake. With so many ways to save on festive spreads all month long, shop Whole Foods Market today. Terms apply.
All right, we're back. Before Ramtin just laid out the big ideas that Herbert was working with in Dune, I'm just going to run through some quick bio stuff for Herbert to understand this interesting guy that we've been working with, that we've been thinking about. So really quick, so he was born in Tacoma, Washington. So he's a Pacific Northwest guy. He was growing up, I believe, during the Great Depression.
Yep.
His parents are alcoholics, so he ran away from home. As an adult, he was a journalist, a photographer, a speechwriter, and he was writing sci-fi on the side. And he was originally working on a magazine article about the U.S. Department of Agriculture's efforts to stabilize sand dunes in Oregon. He never finished that article because he got too obsessed with this image of the sand dunes and how to live and survive in a desert world. So he spent 6 years world building, and he was just working on this draft. It was originally published in serial form in sci-fi magazines. The full novel was rejected by 23 publishers before Chilton Books accepted it, which is a publishing company mostly known for auto repair manuals. I also read that the guy who worked at that company and bought the book for the publishing company. Like, the book was such a flop that he
Yes.
he got fired.
Yep.
It's a bummer,
Yes.
dude. But eventually, the book was published in 1965 and it won the Hugo and the Nebula, which are the big sci-fi awards to this day. And it is, I think, up there in the sci-fi canon. Ramtin, since you were like a big fan as a kid, have you seen Dune's influence throughout the years? Are there any things that you saw in culture you'd be like, that's Dune, that's Dune, that's Dune?
Yes. I mean, I think for me it was retrospective, right? Like after I read the book, I was like, let me go back and read like where the idea for Star Wars came from. Like immediately.
Oh, we gotta talk about Star Wars. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the
Hey.
big one. I was like, yo, this is one-to-one concepts. I mean, I think it goes beyond inspiration. So you could argue Herbert was inspired by the Foundation series, by Asimov. Like there's a lot of previous books, and all art is a remix of some other art, in my opinion. It's influenced by something else. But some of the like Jabba the Hutt and the worms,
The desert planet.
the desert
Oh,
planet.
like the Baron.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Luke's story, Paul's story, like it's just a ripoff in a lot of ways. And of course, it's hard to prove that or whatever.
Frank
but
Herbert, I think almost he's been on the record and be like, he ripped me off, and he I don't think he ever sued, but he definitely like
Lucasfilms ain't cut a check.
No,
Nah, they did not. Lucas
No.
denied it. He said, like, of course I read it like everyone else, but like no way I was sitting down thinking about while I was, writing this idea.
Just through osmosis.
Yes. What I will say this, it makes me happy or sad that Herbert didn't live long enough to see the rebirth and rise of Dune as a film and as a franchise, and the death of Star Wars. Because
okay, all right, come on now.
I
Come on now,
argue
there's
Star
takes.
Wars has just
Hot
gone
takes.
too far. It's wow, like the Disneyification of Star Wars. Whereas Dune is in the hands of like a great filmmaker like Denis Villeneuve. So I just think Herbert got the last laugh.
Hot take. 'Cause I will say, when the first Dune, the part 1 came out, I had a friend and I was like, this is the only time I will let you mansplain something to me. I need you to explain Dune to me before I see this movie. And he was like, well, it's basically Star Wars for goths. And it's about like this spice and imperialism.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I got in and saw the movie, and then I was like, oh, I understand even less.
Yeah.
But beautiful gowns, great score.
Yeah.
And everyone's hair was fantastic.
Immaculate, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, awesome. The movie is, from a production standpoint, all that's A++. I really love that the film has made it like a franchise. Like it's entered the popular parlance. Like people are using those words.
There's an HBO series about the Bene
Bene
Gesserit.
Gesserit.
Yep, the Sisterhood, which
Yeah.
was I watched, which I thought could have been better, but it was
Are
solid.
are you thinking we're close to the Marvelification of Dune?
I hope not. I mean, it could go that way. It could.
Can I ask you, like, have you read all of the Dune books?
I've read all of them.
Like, even the ones that's like POV of the sandworm?
Yes, I've read all of them. I mean, the first 6 are considered canon because they were written by Herbert. The rest were written by his son. But I'm just here for the universe, if I'm being honest with you. And I love the first book because the themes, one of the things I love is culture follows ecology.
Yeah.
That is really explored in the first book. The themes of how to view leadership, how to view someone proclaiming that they are Messiah, to basically be suspicious of all leadership. The fact that this was presented also in the context of the 1950s and 60s in America, a time where, the U.S. has essentially presented itself to itself as the Atreides family.
Yeah.
And that the Soviets are the Harkonnens. It's a warning, a complex warning. And what I find really fascinating is the reason why Herbert went on to write, apparently he didn't want to write all those additional books. He wanted to go in a different direction. But he felt like critics and the fans really misunderstood the first book.
Okay. On that note, so I've got here this interview from 1982. He was on NBC. So he's a few books into the Dune series. He says a couple funny things in this interview. First off, he says, I want to write sci-fi for the non-sci-fi audience.
Yes.
And I was like, it's an interesting an interesting approach
For a guy who wrote this.
To a guy who wrote this. Yeah. And then he's asked about like, okay, what is like your goal with these books? What did you want to accomplish? And this is what he says.
Don't trust leaders to always be right. I worked to create a leader in this book who would be really an attractive, charismatic person for all the good reasons, not for any bad reasons, then power comes to him. He makes decisions. Some of his decisions made for millions of people, millions upon millions of people, don't work out too well.
Here's where I struggle with this book, which is that is an interesting concept. That back half of that deconstruction of the hero myth. None of that really happens in book one. All of that happens, right? As I understand, all of that happens. I'm like kind of interested in like buying Dune Messiah, and I'm interested in like, but none of that. If we're talking about specifically just about Dune, this first book, it's all about the come up and nothing about the crash.
Yeah.
So it's like, is he successful if that is his goal with this book?
Well, I think this is my interpretation. Was trying to do the illustration of the visions that Paul is having about the future once he, goes through the kind of the ritual of basically being inculcated with the spice in its purest form. He sees that there's like multiple different futures, that there isn't one. And some of the futures he sees are horrible and it's haunting him and it's scaring him. And I think Herbert thought people would then extrapolate like, yeah, he came up, but now he's got an army of like fanatics basically wiping out the known galaxy in his name. And he understands the darkness of this, but then gives up to like, it's inevitable. I can't do anything about it, etc. So I think he assumed that, but people misread it. People sometimes, and I think even with the movie, saw it as like a white savior story, etc. But I think he meant it as the opposite. From what I understand, he had real problems with the hero journey itself.
Yeah.
The hero's journey, which I do. And this is what I said about its worldview. I think it is picking apart that fundamental kind of deep, I would say, European sense of story.
All right, quick break, and then we're going to get into how Dune approaches technology.
This message comes from Warby Parker, prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Glasses designed in-house from premium materials starting at just $95, including prescription lenses. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you. This message comes from Mint Mobile. Starting at $15 a month, make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. $45 upfront payment for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan equivalent to $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. First 3 months only. See terms.
All right, we're back. I want to talk more about Herbert's approach to technology. I watched a couple interviews with him and read some stuff, and he was interested in technology. He said you can't run away from it. You have to engage. You have to interface. So he wanted to write, again, this is the thing that's tripping me up. He wanted to write about technology, but the story he chose to tell is like after these people have eradicated technology, sort of.
Yes, but the idea is humanity itself is a technology. That ideas are a technology. Like, I don't mean to get all like weird and academic here, but I think what he's trying to express is that we tend to think of technology as something we build, something that physically exists in the way that like a telephone will or a computer. But what I think he's saying is that when you don't have those things, you're forced to develop the mind as a technology. So the world of the book depends on human beings and their mental capabilities to do things like travel from one star system to the next, right? And so 2 things. The human mind is a technology and natural resources are a technology. That the ecology becomes a technology. So the spice melange is the technology that fuels space travel, it fuels long life, it fuels the ability of people to like mentats, basically, they're all spice melange addicts, right?
Is that what they are? Like,
yes.
Okay.
That's why they have they have like lips that reflect a constant consumption of spice melange and eyes, obviously, the eyes of Abad. So
were they human computers?
Yes.
Ha!
Yeah, well, they turn
trained.
into computers.
Okay.
So they're trained from a young age with the use of spice melange as like a
law student on Adderall. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like next level Adderall. That if you try to come off, you die.
Okay.
So the idea is that humanity itself and our ideas and the way we develop our own mental state is a form of technology, and that we should view it that way.
You know,
is that,
I get it.
I probably sound crazy.
No,
but
you don't. And I think what's interesting is like I associate his generation of sci-fi writer with like right-leaning libertarianism. That's like kind of like easy. You can generally like map onto like what Heinlein is thinking about and I find what he's cooking way more complex and in an interesting and fascinating way.
It's profoundly morally dubious, the book.
Yeah.
It's morally complex. One example is the way the Fremen are portrayed, right? Like, he became very, I think, infatuated by Bedouin culture, Berber culture, Mongolian culture. And the way they're portrayed is, at once, it shows that he has a sort of nostalgic view of like Marxism and collectivism, right? Like that, like people can live collectively and literally give their bodies back to each other, the water from their bodies to survive at that level. But then at the same time, they are vicious and brutal and merciless towards each other and towards their enemies when they need to be, meaning that like the Fremen are basically like no-nonsense people. They are not sentimental. They are very much about survival, and they will kill enemies on the battlefield if they need to. If you're weak, they will drop you. And I think what it is a morally complex view and not like necessarily romanticizing any of the characters in the book. Mm-hmm. It's pushing the listener in a time of black and white thinking in the United States during the Red Scare and all of that stuff to start thinking a little bit more complex about world affairs and understanding these things come from somewhere.
Yeah. So I want to move and start talking about religion here because you could read this as an anti-religious book, right? You could say like, oh, messiahs are bad because like, you know, Paul is going to lead them all into like hell and like kill a bunch of people in the name of religion. And religion sort of like the psychology of religion and how people get swept up in these stories. They're all like brainwashed. You know, you can do the whole anti-religion thing. Mm-hmm. And yet he treats it with such dignity and respect. Mm-hmm. Like there is a beauty to what like the Fremen people are doing.
I mean, while reading it, I was distracted. I was like, wait, this is a quote from Ecclesiastes while we're going along. Mm-hmm. I think it also speaks to, I think in the book, there is a respect for death in a way that I found interesting. Like there is a moment when Paul has to kill someone.
Yes.
And Jessica, his mother, Lady Jessica, has to be like, you just killed someone. How do you feel about that? Like it's not discarded.
Yes.
In a way that I feel like in contemporary art, it's kind of like you kill someone, like, isn't that cool? Go past it. Like, no, this is a life-changing thing that happens. And the Fremen treat it as such and respects the body. When you like pause, like the ritual of getting the water from the body, there is like a ceremony and a respect to it that shows a spirituality, call it spirituality.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
That I was really drawn to and thought interesting.
What I think is fascinating about that is Herbert read, like in preparation for this, did years of research. That's what's interesting. Like he took courses, I think at University of Oregon, and read about Islamic history and military history. And one of the things I think is a commentary on is like pre-modern warfare. I mean, he's writing this on the heels of like atom bomb being dropped and of the horrors of World War II, where a lot of those deaths were happening either through a gun or a bomb. And I think what he's basically doing is harkening back to like pre-modern warfare. You had to kill someone with a sword or a knife. It
There's
was
no
brutal.
distance
it was up
to
close.
It. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it conjured this sense of like honoring the person you killed, that like the death itself, it was so up close and so up front that you had to develop some kind of mythology around it to justify it in your human brain. But I will say this, I think he's less anti-religious and more anti-determinism, anti-prophecy. It's like he respects faith systems as so far as they serve us in our lives. Like meaning you make sense of death through a ceremony. You make sense of the fact that you don't have any water around you by creating a religion around water, right? That all to him seems to make sense. But then when it comes to someone saying, I see the future, follow me, he seems really deeply suspicious of that, which makes sense in an era of like Stalin and Mao and American mythology, right?
Yeah, and very like questionable of fundamentalism and being like, question everything, but also like have your rituals.
All right, let's take one more quick break, and then let's talk about whether or not Herbert is a good writer. And then we're going to give out some book recommendations too. Stick with us.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
Where I sort of want to almost wrap up here is ask, is Herbert a good writer? If we're talking about on a sentence level, right? There's the chapter where Kynes, who's like a C tier character, he plays an important part, but he's not like a main character.
Yeah.
But when this character dies, I don't know if that's what, but it like sort of deviates really quick from like the main thrust of the narrative. And there's this like intimate conversation that he has. I can't quite tell if he's imagining it, but like with his father, right? As he's facing death. And I was like, oh, for all of my dogging on this book about like being too mired in like history and world building, this is like a moment of quiet beauty. If like I can get like 4 more of those, you know what I mean? This would be a 10 out of 10 book.
Well, have you read all of? Or this is the only.
This is the only one
I have never read a single one of these.
I'm Messiah curious.
All right. So if you can get to God Emperor of Dune,
that's
which
like
I think
3
is
more
the
books
4th book.
4th?
Yes. If you can get there, or the 3rd book. I'm sorry,
guy.
3rd book. Children of
guy.
Dune is the 4th book. The 3rd book, that book is like philosophical banger after philosophical banger. The writing in that book, I think, is the best of the series.
Yeah.
But there are moments of it in the previous book, which is what you're pointing out, where it's like deeply thoughtful and philosophical and emotional. And
just like beautiful. It's like a pretty section to read.
100%. Or I mean, the litany against fear, which is in the 1st book, right? Fear is the mind killer. Like that's the reason why it's like people have it tattooed on their bodies, or that it's like had this kind of extended life, is because it's like a beautifully written paragraph. But I agree with you. In this book, is he the best writer in the world? No. What makes the book special are the ideas in it versus the way that those ideas are expressed.
I got to get through like 1,200 more pages.
This is like when someone recommends a show and it's like, oh, season 1 and 2 is ass, but like season 3, baby. That's
it's like there are 10 seasons.
No, I would. I hear you. I wouldn't go. I still do really love the book, and I think the reason why everybody should read it is that it
that was
will
my
give
last
you
question.
a better.
Why should we read this today?
It gives you a better understanding of the world we live in now. Why the world is the way it is. Why certain wars are being fought. Why certain resources matter. Why we are in the place we are, and it gives you kind of both a, my opinion, meta view of that, but also a deeply personal one. That in the end, all of us are living within circumstances that none of us decided. And every day we have to make decisions based on outside influences that are in our head, that are in our bodies, that are dictate everything around us. And that we should be a little bit more forgiving of ourselves because we're living within that context, and we should be really suspicious of anyone that tells us that they have all the answers. And I think the final thing I'll say, for me, this is very personal, but I think its portrayal of Islamic thought is the most respectful. Even though it's flawed at times and shows some of his misunderstandings of it, it still portrays a deep respect from a white American author writing in the 1950s and 60s and beyond. I think it's really important for people to understand Islam from this perspective, from one that doesn't otherize it, that paints it as an integral part of the future world. And so for that reason, I think it's really important for people as an exercise to read this book, especially when they're young.
Yeah. I think this book is definitely worth reading today because, like I said, I've been like getting Dune pilled. Like my immediate reactions to it were a little rude. Like, the text from the boys at the group chat who were all Dune fans. I was like, boys, what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah, right.
But then it's like, I had a question. I was like thinking about, let me go back and read more about what this question he poses. And let me go think about that thing. This week has been a lot of fun just like thinking about this freaking book.
Yes.
And just like unwrapping it and being like, wait, what is it saying? It's not saying nothing. And I was like, but then I gave it a couple days. I was like, he's saying a lot.
It's saying a lot.
It's saying a lot.
It's a lot. Maybe too much. I mean, that's one of the critics is like, it's a lot of ideas mashed into it.
Yeah. Parker, how are you feeling?
Okay. Earlier this week, I was really hostile towards the book. I will say I realized I enjoyed the first and 2nd book. And then I felt book 3 inside of the book jumped the shark a little bit with the Abomination Child. And then I was like, what is this?
The precocious daughter.
The precocious daughter?
Yeah, running around like with an adult's voice, like fighting people and killing people. Yeah.
I was like, all right, Herbert. But I will say, because I enjoyed 2/3 of it, I would recommend it.
Nice. We did it.
We did it.
Cool.
I can say I read Dune. Now when a guy at a party is like But have you read Dune?
No, you can say, but have you really read Dune?
Have you really
Do you
read Dune?
understand that ecology drives technology and culture?
All right, let's wrap up by saying if you like this, recommend that. Parker, do you want to go first?
Okay. All right, so this is full circle for me because our first episode was about Pride and Prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
which is related. I'm seeing a lot of threads.
It is related. So years ago, I watched the movie The Jane Austen Book Club.
Okay.
And in it, there's a guy in the book club who is a big sci-fi fan and is trying to convince a girl in the book club to read Ursula Le Guin.
Okay.
And because of that, it got me to read Ursula Le Guin in my early 20s. And so I recommended like the very popular Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin. I just, that wasn't an excited
No,
I have never read it.
No. It's about like gender on different planets. And it involves like a guy coming onto a planet and not trying to be a messiah or anything, but just trying to understand the people and is stuck in such a binary mindset that he's trying to like navigate this world.
Yeah. Mine is a comic book series. I brought it with me because I read it on the train, called Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples.
Yes.
It is similar Montague, Capulet, like two warring tribes. The two fall in love, have a child, and then they're just like on the run. And one of the people in the relationship is a pacifist. And that gets like tested a lot throughout the book about like how much he's willing to sacrifice for his beliefs in pacifism.
It's been recommended to me.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's when you think about like grand space operas, this doesn't have like as much of like the politics in it, but it is like a vast scape of like cultures and peoples and worlds that they're running away from.
Yeah. My turn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different story, but for people who like the detail and the world building of Dune and the entire series, another very popular sci-fi book from a little bit later than this first book is Rendezvous with Rama, which Denis Villeneuve is actually apparently making a film out of. Is this next
I've never heard
movie.
about this, but what is this?
Rendezvous with Rama. It's by Arthur C. Clarke, another very famous sci-fi writer of that time. It's a short book, and without giving too much away, basically what it's about is an oblong shape, what they think is a meteor, kind of rock or something, basically appears in our solar system. And so a ship is sent to intercept it, get on board, and see what it is, because it's behaving like a spaceship. And it's about the astronauts who board it, what they see, and it's very richly detailed. And it's immersive, right? You feel like you're there with them, and you're in their heads the way you do in Dune.
Damn, Ramtin. Thanks a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
Are you kidding me? I was
Ramtin,
waiting for
thank you
this
so
call.
much.
This is so much fun. I really enjoyed talking about books, so this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
And now for this week's Phone a Fan, I had the pleasure of talking Dune with Pierce Brown, author of the sci-fi series Red Rising. Hey, Pierce, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Andrew?
Good. I've been on a journey, a Dune journey. I've been like up and down with this book, but I want to know your history. When did you first discover Dune?
So Dune was one of the, I guess, 2 books that my dad gave me, and it was almost like if I was in a medieval tale, I'd be given the sword of my ancestors, right? Lord of the Rings was given to me by my dad with great gravitas, and so was Dune, and they were big books for him when he was a kid, and so I discovered Dune through my dad when I was maybe 11 or 12, and I certainly did not understand all of it, but what I immediately appreciated was the sense of mythology in it. Yeah, when you read something young, it forms almost like a temple in your mind, and Dune has always been a temple that I can go in and visit.
When you started writing your own stuff, did the way Herbert was like layering like the politics and the world building influence how you approached that aspect to your stories?
Probably more so architecturally than any other author, because he bases his world building off of scarcity, need. So what he does is he creates an impasse. So if there is no spice, then everything shuts down. The guildmen cannot navigate the starships. The Bene Gesserit lose their power. People lose pleasures. So he creates this sense of importance in a place and then discovers the drama around it. And so each one is its own political science parable So it helped influence my books from the first 3 in my Red Rising series to the last 4, because I wanted to show what 10 years of having a god complex and being treated like a god can do to an individual.
Yeah. If you could talk to Frank Herbert about storytelling, what do you think you'd ask him?
I don't think I'd ask him about storytelling. I'd want to talk political science with him. I think that storytelling is how would I say it? The evidence is there. He's written his thesis. He's written his white paper. What I would ask him is, what would he change? What does he think got misread or misrepresented and people still don't get? Less so like, typos and things like that, or character decisions, but what got lost in the shuffle, and what's a key misapprehension people have of your work.
I did before I started reading the book, I did a quick skim of his politics, and it's like, vaguely like right-leaning Republican, da, 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 da. And then you read the book, and like the main emperor bad guy runs like a mega corporation. And it's and it's like, which is like destroying the planets. I was just trying to wrap my head around.
I think he's the rare breed of he's a conservative ecologist.
Yeah, very like Roosevelt, right?
Yeah.
I
think it's because Frank Herbert's politics don't really fit into our framework. We have these gestalts now that we look at, and so we can judge someone where they kind of stand on the spectrum. But I think that the spectrum, had a few more dimensions, in his mind at least, perhaps.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if Dune, because of the Villeneuve movies, if Dune has reached this sort of cultural moment. I'll hear it in random as people referencing Dune as if we were talking a shared language, right? We'll be talking about something else, like, like in Dune, and they won't even continue, and I'll be like, I didn't realize we're there with Dune yet.
It is emotionally rewarding to see, because I've always been a champion of it. But at the same time, I think that Star Wars is popular because it's so accessible as well. I'm not saying that's the only reason Star Wars is accessible, but it is so much more accessible than Dune.
Yeah.
Particularly with what's coming in Dune. In the 3rd movie, I'll be very interested to see because Frank Herbert's thesis has not yet been even addressed. And it seems like Villeneuve, I've heard him say in interviews that the reason he became a director was to do the Dune movie. So I have to imagine he's going to stick to Frank's thesis. And that thesis is not like a Star Wars thesis of, good triumphs. It's more complicated than that. I think it'll be like the debate between Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings in a way. If you grow up on Lord of the Rings, I feel like you're much more judgmental of Harry Potter.
Yeah. Okay, my last question for you. I just read the first one, and I'm interested in diving further, but make the sales pitch for me to go out and buy Dune Messiah right now.
Dune Messiah, it has more interpersonal drama than Dune. It's less stately. There's a lot more game playing and mysteries and politics in it, as well as assassination attempts. And you get to understand Paul in a way that you didn't in the first book. Even when he's this godlike figure that can see the future, he's struggling with a very human problem. And his relationship with Shani takes front and center stage. And I think that, in Dune, so much of the excitement was conserved for the last 60 pages, maybe the last 50 pages, right? And I feel like Dune Messiah is far more present in its scenes, and reads less like a history and more like a espionage thriller.
Okay, I think you convinced me.
All right.
All right, Pierce, thank you so much. It was really great talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
And folks, be sure to check out Pierce's Red Rising and Iron Gold trilogies out now. This episode was produced by Cher Vincent and Chloe Weiner and edited by Megan Sullivan.
Engineering support this week from Jimmy Keeley, and our executive producer is Yolanda Sanguini.
Thank you for listening to Books We've Loved from NPR. See you next time.
Bye!
This message comes from Mint Mobile. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no hidden fees. Plans start at $15 a month. Make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. That's mintmobile.com/switch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required. Equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. This message comes from Saladyne. Yesterday's approach to storage can't meet the demands of today's AI ambitions. Bigger, faster, and more energy efficient, Solidigm solid-state storage solutions are optimized for AI. Learn more at storageforai.com.
This message comes from the Sierra Club, fighting to protect America's national parks and forests. These public lands are the nation's legacy, and their future is worth fighting for. Donate at sierraclub.org/NPR, and your gift will be matched.